Greetings, old school magic players, and welcome to the Four Horsemen. Greetings, old school magic players. Welcome to a Tuesday night with the Four Horsemen. I'm here tonight with John Eckleberry, and John and I are going to be covering our Tournament 11 Semifinals matches. Good evening, John. How's it going?
Hey, how are you, Chad?
Good, man. Ready to get this semifinals match underway. We've been waiting to do this one for quite a while, and I hope it's an interesting match. Certainly, the Tournament 11 was a lot of fun, and we had a great group of guys playing. Just a quick reminder, this tournament ran over the winter from January 13th to February 10th, and you can check us out at fourhorsemenmagic.com, facebook.com/group/fourhorsemenmtg if you'd like to check out some of our tournaments. We're actually doing tournament number 13 coming up here in just about 10 days. We'll be kicking off this new tournament. We've got a great batch of prizes. John, your Arabian Nights Islands are very popular, and I think a lot of folks are excited about getting those as player prizes.
Excellent.
Yeah. The ban and restricted list, we've updated it. John's on our players rules committee, and we wanted to make the tournament 13 different and help balance out a few things in the format. So this tournament's going to run from March 29th to April 28th. Check it out, fourhorsemenmagic.com. Go to tournaments and click on tournament 13. All right, John. So taking us way back into January. So much has happened since then. These are the brackets as they broke down with the results from the quarterfinals. And John, you were in this tournament, and Nick was able to 2-0 sweep you in the quarterfinals.
Absolutely destroyed me. I was on a blue-green aggro deck that seemed pretty reasonable and, did well enough to get out of my pod. And then I just went up against Nick, who's just got a deck full of X4s. And, I just could not seal the deal. I did a bunch of damage, and then, he would just build a wall of 4 toughness dudes, and that was that. So we'll see how that does against Terry's deck.
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, we can take a look at those decks right now. So we're going to be covering today as Nick Breyer proceeded to the semifinals, beating John 2-0, and Terry beat Christopher Zach 2-0. Christopher Zach was running a mono black deck, which was really cool and innovative. So Nick versus Terry. Let's take a look at their decks. This is going to be the mono blue Fliers deck that John was just mentioning, with the spice thrown in of Time Elemental and Force Spike, which is really cool to see those cards. Both of those show up again in Tournament 12. And then on the right, blue-red-green control is Terry's deck. John, let's take a look at these decks. We've covered Nick's deck in the prior videos, but anything you'd like to comment about this?
I just think Time Elemental is a really cool answer to a lot of the stuff in this format, because there's no traditional enchantment removal, but the boomerang effect, and we also have boomerang in the format as well, is pretty powerful, and you'll see it again in Tournament 12 in a few of the decks. But this is a good preview of that.
John, did this deck influence your Tournament 12 build?
No, not really. So actually, when we very first started Four Horsemen, the very first deck I built for this format was a mono blue deck, because I love Time Elemental, and I was like, I want to play this card, and I played a bunch of test games with it, but I didn't play it in any of the early tournaments. I built a mono red deck for the very first tournament because that's my color of choice for sure. But blue is definitely a deck that you can build a mono color deck that actually is tournament worthy in this format. I can't really say that of all of the colors, although I have been working on a black deck that we found to be terrible, but I still think it's got some promise.
Yeah. Well, Nick was basically undefeated throughout his brackets and throughout the quarterfinals, and just sailed probably his best record ever in any of the Four Horsemen tournaments. Really impressive run. All the usual suspects for blue, and lots of sneaky control elements like the 4 spikes that he can counterspell for 1. Plus, he's got remove souls and those time elementals, with, like you said, lots of 2/4 flyers between the ghost ships and drakes. So it's really strong. The only thing
I feel like a lot of people wouldn't play the 4 spikes, but I like the idea of not just being straight control, but being more of a tempo kind of thing, and those kind of pair well with the boomerangs too. I don't know. Does he have any actual boomerangs in his list?
Yeah, there's 4 boomerangs right below the 4 spikes.
Oh yeah, they're there. So yeah, I like that kind of tempo breaking. Get them early with a 4 spike, and then they get something down, and you boomerang it, and then they try to play it again, and you counter it, and you're just kind of stopping them at every turn, while you, in the meantime, have stuck a couple of cheap flyers and are beating them in the face with it. And it seems to be pretty effective.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's take a look at Terry Phillip Hutchings' red, green, blue aggro deck.
Oh, good. That's the one I actually have in front of my face right now. So let me look at that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this deck is cool. This reminds me of kind of some of the early decks that we played around with. I've played red green a couple of times. I like the usual suspects here, of course, the Curd Apes and the Chain Lightnings, but it's interesting because he's got like all this cheap stuff, but then suddenly up in the corner here he has like Tetravis and Triskelion, which those are powerful cards in this format, but it's interesting that there's no real mid-range. It's just cheap stuff in those at the top end. I guess if you have extra mana drain mana, you can play stuff like that, and you can also pump that mana into his 5-cost red cards like the Fissure and the Pyrotechnics. So
yeah, I think
it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, it is kind of an interesting observation there. The mid-range stuff, I guess, is Jalum Tome and Serendibs, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he has Serendibs. I mean, what more do you want, right? He's just it's kind of the Arabian aggro. He's got the apes and he's got the dibs. Those are the best ones anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's just 4 apes, 4 dibs, 4 Urnums, the 3 Triskelions, and one Tetravis.
So what's the story, do you think, with his one of Pendelhaven here? Is that just like he doesn't have any 1/1s unless the ape doesn't have a forest? But
yeah, I think that's well, it's there for the Triskelions too. So once you pop your Triskelion
that's
arms,
fair. That's fair, and also Tetravis tokens, I guess,
and
can be buffed
tokens
with it as well.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
There are some scenarios where if you just end up with a blank basic mountain on turn 1, and you get a Pendelhaven turn 2, your Curd Ape can still be turn 1, a 2, 3, whatever. But I think it's there for those artifact creatures.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So and we allow proxies in this format. So the Urnum Gens, one of the Curd Apes, the Mana Drains, and the duels are proxied, and we're totally cool with that. In fact, Terry wanted to run his Four Horsemen Ken Meyer Jr. custom art proxies, but he hadn't received them yet in the mail, so he just printed up these proxies for Tournament 11. And it's a really solid deck in a lot of ways. Terry also, I think, was undefeated in his pod, and even beat his prior opponent Chris 2-0 as well. So both Terry and Nick were undefeated coming into the semifinals match, having won all their other matches 2-0. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it's interesting to walk into a match like that, and then there's got to be a winner, right? So you've swept the whole tournament up until this point, and then one of you has to lose.
Yeah.
Which is kind of
yeah, that's
a
right.
bummer, but that's how it works.
Yeah. There are some rook eggs in his sideboard, as well as some active volcanoes, scavenger folks, some Argothian pixies, flash floods, and recall. I like his sideboard. I like that it's very well spread out, and he's got lots of different answers for lots of different things. I found it interesting that he didn't run things like Falling Star, and I find it interesting that he didn't run Rook Egg main deck, which a lot of other folks were running Rook Egg and Diamond Valley and Chain Lightning and Rook Egg with Falling Star, which are all really powerful combos. So why do you think he elected to keep the Rooks out of the main?
I guess he just wanted to be faster. It's funny because he, identifies as an aggro deck, and he is, but there's not a ton of like little creatures here. There's just the apes.
Yeah.
And then you work your way up to the the 3 and 4 drops. I don't know. I mean, the Rook Egg is a little bit slow, and it's interesting you mentioned Falling Star because it's just not a card we've seen a ton of yet. But I think you'll start to see more of it as people remember it and realize how good it is.
It's unbelievably good. It's a multi for 1. You can hit 2 easily. With a little skill, you can hit 3 cards. With a little more skill, you can hit 3 of your opponent's cards and your Rook Egg. Peter can hit 6 cards, lining them up in the middle. So,
right.
I mean, if you've got some dexterity and you practice it a little bit, that card can be really powerful. So I do think that's interesting too, and the fact that he's not running the Pixies main and he's not running any other kind of
none of it, not even like scavenger
folk.
Like,
yeah.
They're in the side though, right?
They are in the side.
Scavenger folk on the side.
Yeah.
So he could bring those in, but it's just interesting that there's not. But maybe they just didn't feel like there was room for that. I mean. Yeah, the cards he is playing are all very good.
If he needed
Sylvan Library,
Sylvan Library is there. If he needed speed, he could pop out the 3 Triskelions and Tetravis and put in the 3 Scavenger Folk, and he could pop out, I don't know, maybe a couple Pyrotechnics and put in the other 2 Pixies. So he could quickly get 5 more small, aggressive early creatures, which I do like that about his sideboard.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a little bit transformational, which I always enjoy.
What I find though is that the Curd Apes are only good if you get them turns 1, 2. By the time you hit turn 3, your opponent's going to start to have answers. So you've got 4 cards in your deck that you're just banking 100% that you're going to have one of those in your opening hand. And if you get the mid game or late game, they always feel like dead cards in my hands. Now,
yeah, they're not very good late.
He does have Chain Lightnings, he does have Triskelions, he's got Pyrotechnics and Fisher, so he does have some ways to clear the path to even mid and late game, maybe get through with some Curd Apes. But that's one of the reasons why, like, I think if you're gonna go Curd Ape, you should go full on Zoo, with all the early weenies. Run the 4 Pixies, run Gasman Ogre, run Scavenger Folk, and run Serendib and Urnum, and just, run 24 creatures. And it's an interesting choice. I also find it interesting that there are a lot of expensive cards like Pyrotechnics, Fisher, and the robots. But there's no Felwar Stones or Dark Elves of Deep Shadow, right? So I guess he's planning to power out those larger spells with just mana drain mana.
That's what I thought. My initial thought anyway when I first looked at this list. I was like, well, there it is. And this deck is a good example of why we finally went ahead and throttled Mana Drain to 1 for Tournament 13.
Right, we restricted it, yep.
You know, and I'm not sad that we kept it for as long as we did, because I think it was kind of interesting that, you know, there's really no other format that lets you play more than one.
Right.
And with good reason. But also, with the core set gone, it's blue's really only hard counterspell for everything. I mean, there's remove soul for creatures, and there's flash counter's kind of bad because it's not really a negate. But you know, I've been happy to have it. I've been happy to play with it. But now it's kind of time for it to go, because what you're seeing is every deck just jams blue and plays Mana Drain and Dib. And because why wouldn't you?
Right.
But with that gone, well, I mean, we did keep 1. We restricted it to 1. But with that gone in future tournaments, you're not going to just auto jam blue into every deck.
Right, yeah. And I think that's really important. I mean, we've had quite a bit of philosophical debate about the impacts of this, and it does impact blue significantly. But the truth is all of the top, you know, semifinals decks, half of them were running, you know, 4 mana drains, and often we'd, you know, have multiple. We'd have 4x mana drains on each of the finalists. So I agree. We all voted, and it was time to, you know, restrict mana drain.
Because, like, you look at this deck, and I mean, maybe it's just partly the way that he has his deck photo laid out, but you're like, oh, you're playing this cool red-green deck. And then you kind of just, like, look at the side, and you're like, why are there 12 blue cards in this red-green deck? And you're like, oh, well, I guess it's not just a red-green deck.
Yeah. Yeah. And that also brings us to the mana discussion along the bottom. You know, running 12 dual lands and only 6 basics makes you very vulnerable to Blood Moon, but he does have the 2 forests up there, so I guess he's running 8 basics.
I feel like Blood Moon's a little bit like Falling Star, in that we haven't seen that much of it. I mean, people are aware of it, and I do think some have tried to play it, but it hasn't really... I haven't seen any matches, at least any that we've commentated on, where somebody really gets screwed by Blood Moon. Maybe we'll see that down the line. I was just having this conversation with somebody tonight because they were asking me about the dual lands being allowed, and, you know, I said initially I was pretty against it when it first came up, because they're not Four Horsemen cards. They're
Right.
not from those sets.
Yeah.
But, you know, the argument was just to allow decks like this to exist. I mean, you probably wouldn't see any 3-color decks.
Yeah, I remember we didn't see hardly any 3-color decks for the first 5 tournaments, because your only options were basic lands and City of Brass.
Right.
It made it very difficult, even sometimes, to play 2-color decks if you had multi-colors on each side.
Right.
Yeah. So
It's double buff.
But, you know, hats off to Terry for building a deck that went undefeated in his group matches, in the quarterfinals, and now we're going to see how it performs in the semifinals here. And the other comment for Terry is this was his, like, second Four Horsemen tournament, or third Four Horsemen tournament. He played in the 2 Pauper events, but this was his first regular Four Horsemen event. So, you know,
right.
Hats off to Terry for making it all the way to the semifinals in his second tournament here. All right.
Absolutely.
I think we're ready to get into the match. Are you ready, John?
Get into it. All right. On 3?
Let me switch over 1 second.
All right. So the video that we're talking over here, you'll notice, is actually from Terry's channel, Old MTG. He went ahead and recorded all his matches as well, because he has a cool channel. So check that out sometime, if you haven't seen it already.
Yeah, definitely. It's just his name is just Old MTG, all caps. All right, John, you're queued up at 3:50 on the time, and so am I. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so here we go.
All right, 3, 2, 1, play.
All right.
Oh man, Terry's video is not mirrored and everything's backwards, and it's making me crazy.
Oh no. Yeah, you can set that in whereby. Easy to do.
I see that he has using the same life counter that I am. So it's funny. I was using the official Magic life counter for a long time, but then they did an upgrade to it, and it just looks terrible on camera now. And so I switched to I tried a bunch of different ones out, and the one that I like the most is the one you see on the screen there with the blue and red.
Yeah.
The Lotus.
The Lotus
Life counter. It's a good one.
Well, Nick gets off to a fast start here. He's playing Flash Counter on
dude,
Terry's.
Dude, he force spiked the first card 8.
Yeah, he force spiked the first card 8,
and then he remove sold the second card 8.
He remove sold the second card 8, and then now he's dropping 2 flying men on turn 3.
Yeah, well, like what a backbreaking. Like Terry probably thought, man, I have a pretty good hand. I got 2 card 8s.
Right.
And Nick's just like, no, man. I'm gonna counter both of those and play my own weenies.
Yeah, that's really rough. But at least Terry gets a Sylvan out here on turn 3 for him, and he looks like he
Terry blows a chain lightning on one of the flying men just to kind of. Cause I think he probably just feels really staggered at this point. I don't know if I would have wasted it, although it does cut the damage in half, right? You're only taking 1 a turn instead of 2.
Yeah.
Look at Nick's like hilarious ghost ship proxy that's just like a white piece of paper with some words on it.
Yeah, he's got 4 of those in there. I guess I need to send him some ghost ships.
Yeah, I'll mail Nick some ghost ships, or you can if you have extra ones. That's a funny card. I always laugh when, I mean, we don't care. Like, we're happy to have people play and play with proxies, but it's always extra funny to me when like really cheap cards are getting proxied just because they didn't have, you know, what they needed at the moment for the tournament.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be a strong defense for him, especially since he's got 4 islands. Yeah, and now the Urnum comes down, and here you see the power of Ghost Ship. The Ghost Ship can just block the Urnum and regenerate, no problem.
Well, you know what else is a little scary about that is that he can block and regenerate, but something's going to get Forest Walk every upkeep. So, like, it's actually kind of almost a liability for Terry to have the Urnum on the board right now.
Yeah.
Not that Nick couldn't just fly over anyway, because he's got all Flyers.
Right.
But, so maybe a Pyrotech next year, now that he's tapped down to kill the ghost ship. No. Oh, Dib. Dib's good.
Serendib, yep. So at least he's got.
This is why it's good that he has blue in his deck, right? Because he's got some flying.
Yeah, and he's got a blocker now to slow down that flying man that was just plinking him every turn.
He's got Zephyr Falcon. Ooh, gets remove sold. He's doing a little remove souling of his own.
Yeah, look at that.
Looks like a bunch of Nick's lands are signed. That's cool.
Yeah, Nick's got a signing service, and he group batch, mails tons of cards to all the different artists he's arranged to do signings with them, and charges a small fee for folks so they can get bulk signings, which is pretty cool.
It'd be fun to go to an event at some point again where some of the artists are at, and play with some other. It's funny, I just haven't. I just do all my Magic playing from my the comfort of my home now since the pandemic.
Yeah, we got the Fallen Empires event coming up.
Hey, that's true. On March 30th, there will be a live Fallen Empires event in Ohio.
Yeah.
The Fallen Empires World Championship.
That's right.
I'm looking forward to it.
So, Terry...
That's in 11 days, man. That's in only 11 days.
That's right around the corner.
So, we saw Drake hit the other side of the board, so now he's got triple flyer.
Uh-huh.
And Dib is just so bad against X4 Flyers because you're taking the damage every turn, and you're not getting any damage in on your opponent.
Right.
You know, it's like having your own private copper tablet. It's pretty bad, really.
Yeah, much has been said about Azure Drake and Ghost Ship versus Serendib Efreet.
Yeah.
And even in the Swedish and other formats, I talked a lot with Parker about his deck. He's not running Dib because in many ways, Savannah Lion is just so much better.
Well, and in this format in particular, where there's no ABU cards, in the absence of something like Swords, a lot of people are playing Spirit Link, and Spirit Link is great against Dib.
Right. So Terry's attacking here, I guess, because he's got an opportunity since Nick played his proxy there as a Ghost Ship. He played the Azure Drake. He doesn't have the 3 mana to regenerate Ghost Ship, so
yeah, he knows he'll take it or lose a guy.
Yeah,
he
so
opted to lose a guy. He loses the Flying Man.
Yeah, he chose the Flying Man, right?
It was never going to get through anyway.
Right. So yeah, now Terry needs a Chain Lightning to combine with his damage. And there's
look, another X4 flyer.
No, that's the Time Elemental there.
Oh, is it? Oh, it is a Time Elemental. I can see it on the drawing now.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's like a little dragonfly kind of thing.
Yeah. I love Time Elemental so much. It can really break the stalemate. So, he can let him take his damage from the Dib, and then he can also bounce it and get through with his Flyers. This seems pretty good for Nick.
Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty good for Nick. Terry needs to get a Pyrotechnics, a Fissure. Well, he really just needs a Fissure. Fissure can take out the Ghost Ship.
So I assume he's double blocking the Dib, right, to kill it.
Yeah.
Terry's probably fine with that because now he's not going to take damage from it anymore.
Yeah, he blocked. He just blocked the Dib with both Flyers, and I guess
Pyrotechnics.
Yeah, here comes the Pyrotechnics. Now that's very good because he'll be able to spread some of that damage out. He should really Pyrotechnics that Time Elemental.
He did. He killed the Time Elemental and finished off the Drake.
Great. That's a great move and very timely.
Book's pretty good. They both got a book now.
Yeah. Yeah, Jalumtone's really important, especially at this time in the game, mid to late game when you don't need any more lands, really. Being able to cycle, ditch your lands, and get more cards is really, really important for the tempo.
Yeah, it's super strong.
So he's attacking with Urnham here, and Nick can just block and regenerate, but now he's tapped out, so Terry must have something. Nope, he doesn't have anything. I thought he might have had a surprise spell while Nick was tapped out, but it looks like not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Nick seems pretty comfortable here, although it looks like it is 12-12. He's not attacking with the Ghost Ship, just saving it to block each turn.
Yeah, I mean, right now it makes sense, because there's no sense in doling out 2 and taking 4 every time. Ooh, another Dib. So, Nick's actually kind of on the back foot here all of a sudden. It's funny, I felt like he was kind of in control of the game up until a few turns ago.
Yeah.
I think that Pyrotechnics really turned the game around, where he was able to finish off a Drake and hit the Time Elemental at the same time. And hit him for a point of damage too. So
yeah, it certainly made a big difference.
It's nice to get a kind of a 2-for-1 there. I wonder what Nick's holding right now. Looks like he has a couple of cards. Is that another Ghost Ship?
Let me look at his deck picture real quick and see what.
I think it's a Ghost Ship.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, that's a Ghost Ship proxy.
Ghost boat.
You know, it's like a
I really
pirate. It's
like.
like a pirate ship, and that's the pirate. The skull and bones on the pirate flag.
Right, right. The Jolly Roger. Uh, so same thing as before. Double block the dib to kill it. Take the 4 from the Urnum.
Yeah.
Those 4s are adding up though. He's taken 3 hits from the Urnum now, putting him to 8.
Ooh.
And
Chain lightning to finish off the ghost ship.
Yep. And then a remove soul for dib number 2.
Well, that was a very, very effective way to take out that ghost ship. So,
but now we're right back where we were with one Urnum and 1 ghost ship.
Yeah. So Nick got a little. Nick tapped down. He needed a 3rd land. He needed 7 lands to make that all work. But he tapped down with 4 lands to play that 2nd ghost ship to really try and get back in control, and it cost him one of them. All right, so Nick is down to 8, and Terry is at 7. And Terry plays Triskelion.
That could make the difference right there.
It really could.
Because now he's going to be coming in with 2 4/4s.
Ooh, and Nick decides to activate Jaloom Tome. And he discards a boomerang and draws a card.
I guess he didn't feel like the boomerang was good enough, but like, I don't know. I might have saved it to snap back there in him at least once. I don't know. It just depends on what else he has, I guess. He's looking for an answer. I don't know what the best answer is. Oof, another proxy. What is that card?
That's another time elemental.
That's another time elemental. All right. I think it's a little late for the time elemental now. He could pop it with the. I mean, he should go to combat first to get his damage in, but then he could pop it with Triskelion tokens if he really wants to.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with what you were saying earlier, John. It's like Nick was in command and control, and that pyrotechnics just completely swung this game around. Now Nick's got a 4/4 and a 4/5 attacking. And he's tapped out. So.
Yeah, so he blocked 1, took 1. Oh, he's just scooping. He's just straight scooping.
Wow.
The writing was on the wall.
Yeah.
Well, and here we go. Here's a little look at Nick's deck. Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, so we can switch back over. If you were Nick, what would you be sideboarding right now?
Boy, I don't know. I gotta kind of look. He's got so many proxies on the sideboard. So he could bring in.
Actually, you know what? Nick's deck picture here doesn't have his sideboard.
That's okay. The one.
Yeah, we can do the one on the video. Let me switch back to that. Yeah, the one on the YouTube has his sideboard listed. Energy fluxes, flash counters, flash floods, acid rain, enchantment alterations.
Not much for Terry's deck, really. I mean, even the flash floods are kind of bad. They really only hit Curdape. I mean, they're not a red elemental blast. They don't counter any of those red spells. They only destroy a creature or return a mountain.
Yeah, I would just put in the 3 active volcanoes and call it a day.
Just to kill dibs, I guess.
Yeah. Or drakes, and that way you can save your Fisher for, the ghost ships.
It's funny seeing his blue deck there with all his nice looking cards. I'm such a troll. Like, I just play as many white bordered cards as possible when I play in this format. Like, I don't think there's a single black bordered card in my mono blue deck for this current tournament.
Yeah, well, the Chronicles reprints and 4th edition reprints and revised and all that make it really easy to
Yeah.
to do it.
Hey, there's one of the Arabian Islands casting a flying man. That's the other reason I played Mono Blue this month, because I wanted to play 20 Arabian Islands in my deck. So it's a pretty strong start for Nick here. Creature on turn 1, creature on turn 2.
Yeah. Flying Man and Zephyr Falcon.
No Curd Ape for Terry, so like he's just beating in. Dib on turn 3.
Oh wow!
I mean, look at that.
That's pretty much perfect.
Oh, Remove Soul though is a lifesaver right there.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, what a great set of 1, 2, 3 mana casting costs, all flying creatures. So Nick must have had a
just curved right out.
He must have had a perfect starting hand.
And there's no Hurricane to worry about in this format, so.
Now Nick is playing Acid Rain here on turn 4.
Wow.
And
destroying what, all forests?
Well, he's got a tropical island and a taiga, so yes, it destroys those two.
Yeah, so he got 2 lands with that. He just got to keep his mountain.
Yeah, but he got a forest
huge.
next turn.
Look at that.
Yeah, really cool. And then Nick's just coming in for the attack, hitting in with the Flying Man and the Zephyr. Oh,
another dib.
Wow. And so Terry he gets another tropical, and he's right back in it with 3 mana and a dib on his turn 5. Wow, he's dropped a land every turn here. Recovering really quickly from that Acid Rain. So Nick boomerangs it, and now an Urnum.
He like snap played that Urnum too instead of recasting his dib. Like he's on the aggro plan. He's like, I don't care what you're doing. I'm just gonna play my biggest thing, and I'm gonna smash your face.
Well, and the dib does some damage, whereas the Urnum can just come in and hit these, hit big.
Yeah, so. The dib can block the Flyers though.
True,
but he doesn't care. He's like, I want to get this damage in.
Yeah, and here comes the dib.
There we go. The dib gets boomeranged again.
Boomeranged again.
This is another game where, like, I felt like Nick was way out ahead and, like, in total domination. And then Terry is, like, recovered incredibly nicely. Like, he got 2 of his lands destroyed and he got stuff countered. But he's got 5 lands and 2 really powerful creatures out now.
Yeah.
Versus Nick's 2 1/1s.
Well, he's dropped a land
is funny
almost
because
every turn.
The problem that I had with Nick's deck was that he had a bunch of 2/4s out. And I couldn't get around him. But he's only got 1/1s in this match.
Yeah, he hasn't drawn into his Azure Drakes and Ghost Ships yet, and
yeah, I mean he still could. They're in there. I mean we saw him last game.
Yeah, but I am also really surprised at how quickly Terry recovered. But what allowed him to do it was, I mean, he went down to 1 land, and he's literally dropped a land almost every turn since. So, with 2 lands in his graveyard. I don't know how many cards he's got in his hand, but half of what he's drawn has to have been land at this point. If he hadn't had all those lands, he would have been really crippled.
When I have to bust my Urnums back out, the Fallen Empires next month is allowing Chronicles as the splash set.
Oh yeah.
So have to look through all my Chronicles cards.
Oh, there's so many good Chronicles cards.
So here we go. He's just beating in again. He is holding the Flyer back to block. Because he doesn't want to take that 2 damage. He'd rather take 1 a turn. Oh, and now Nick's in defensive mode. Oh, look at
that. There goes the camera.
That's funny. So Nick's playing defense now. He blocked with his Zephyr Falcon. Just chump blocked with it. He's perhaps in trouble.
Yeah. It's looking rough. And here comes another
dib number 2 for Terry.
Man. Wow.
I think that this is maybe over now. Oh, yeah, he's scooping it up.
Holy crap. Yeah, because he's at 8 life and just the 2 Flyers. Yeah, so, man.
So it's got to be a little jarring to, like, win all your games in the tournament. Like, I don't even think he dropped a game against anybody.
No, not one.
And then he just gets blown away 2-0.
Yeah.
In 2 games where, like, I felt like he came out super strong. Like, he had really strong starts both of those games, and just didn't go his way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he got very unlucky there, with being able to cast that acid rain on turn 4 and wipe out, a tropical and a taiga, only to have Terry come back with a forest the very next turn and remove Soul.
He just keeps playing lands like nothing happened.
Well, he removed Soul, the flyer that Nick was going to play, and then the next turn he drops a mountain. So now he has a mountain, a forest, and an island. He's got all 3 basics, and he drops a dib, and then it just goes from there. He ends up with 5 or 6 lands, no problem, after having the 2-for-1 on the acid rain. So I think it was really, really fortuitous that Terry had all those land drops, because getting that acid rain off on turn 4, taking Terry down to just 1 land, could have been game by itself. All right, so Terry with the red, green, blue aggro deck is going to be proceeding to the finals, beating Nick Breyer's mono blue Fliers deck 2-0.
Wow, very nice.
So, William, in our prior match, William had beat Peter. Let me just get these graphics right. All right, there we go. Yeah, so Peter had beat William 2-0, and with Terry beating Nick 2-0, now Terry and Peter proceed to the finals. So John and I will be covering that one in our last of Tournament 11 videos. I think we'll get ready to wrap up. Thanks for joining me, John.
Yeah.
And for our viewers, if you'd like to play some Four Horsemen Old School Magic, join us for tournament number 13, March 29th through the 28th. We got signups going on through next weekend. And check us out at fourhorsemenmagic.com. Hope to see you there. That's
Absolutely. We got we got 36 players, right? So come get us to 40.
That's right. Yeah, we need 4 more players to hit 40, and that'd be an awesome milestone for us. All right. That wraps it up for Tournament 11 semifinals. We will see you guys next time.
Catch you later.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Bye.